Welcome to Dealing with Yourself, Episode 7. I am your host, Danny Till, D-A-N-N-Y-T, silent H-I-L-L. Good God. Oh, I don't understand why, because I was in school for 13 years, including kindergarten. Actually, yeah, 14 years if you count preschool. Why the fuck couldn't anybody pronounce my name right, with the exception of, 5 teachers? I don't know. I really don't know. But anyway, this is episode 7. How have you guys been doing listening along to these episodes on my YouTube channel? And if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. Leave your comments below. Oh, has anybody I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but it's kind of annoying because you're so used. Like if you go to a comment, you're so used to on your phone just scrolling all the way down to the bottom, but now it's like right there, and you keep having to be like, oh fuck, all right, scroll back up, and then there it is. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Now this is a interesting episode because usually I have a random topic I like to talk about, something that's usually going on in my life, or just something that I have current thoughts on. But something that I've been thinking about a lot lately is with the pandemic happening and movie theaters shutting down, and now and the way movie theaters are going to open up again eventually. Even though I want to go see Tenet, I don't think it'll hit that August release date. I really don't. I say not until mid-September. But that's just me. Anyway, so I'm thinking about, because what is your guys' favorite movies to go watch in the theater? Really, I want to know, is it action? Is it horror? Is it comedy? Is it superhero films? What is it you love to go see? Maybe it's a solid character-driven piece. One that I highly recommend is Ben Affleck's The Way Back. One of the movies that truly was significantly hit by the coronavirus because it was one of the last movies in the theater before the theater shut down. It was that and Onward. Bloodshot was the last movie. It was Bloodshot and I Still Believe. Those were the last movies that were in the theaters when coronavirus happened and the pandemic really, that's when, theaters shut down. But anyway, the Way Back is one of the last movies in the theaters. It's Ben Affleck. I really do think it's his best performance he's ever given. Because he's so raw and he's so stripped of everything, and when you just know everything that's going on in this guy's life, because from what I understand, there were some times when they were shooting scenes, and he kind of just broke down. I could see why, because he probably was had dealt with some of that shit before. But yeah, it's a great movie. Definitely go check it out. One thing for me, though, in regards to just what I like to go watch in the theater, I know the Marvel movies make all the money. I like the Marvel movies too, but I don't like them to the extent that everybody else does, if that makes sense. To me, it's just all right, the next Marvel movie is in theaters, go watch it. All right, saw it, next. All right, wait another 3.5 to 5 months, depending on when the next one comes out. Because to me, I just feel like we are so... we just have so many of those in the theater now. It's almost to the point where it's all right, the next Marvel movie is here. Let's go watch it. All right, next, done. And also, again, it's because they intertwine together. And listen, if you truly did love Avengers Endgame, that's great. I thought it was good. I thought it was really good. But I'm not in love with it like everybody else. I own it. I own it on Blu-ray. It's on my shelf. I also own Infinity War, and Black Panther, and Spider-Man Far From Home, and Homecoming. A good majority of the Marvel movies, right? On Blu-ray. I have not watched most of them since the theater. Because my thing is just if I want to watch it, it's there. Because it's true. If I want to watch it, it's right there. But, for me, I can watch comedies over and over and over and over again. And because again, my sense of humor is fairly broad. I like pretty much all comedies. I love the stupid fart humor. I love the dark comedic films. They're hard. They don't get made as much, but when they work, they just work. And now we're kind of in this new age where specifically one area of comedic films are just not getting made or not getting made. Not the right. That's not the right word. Box office return is deteriorating very much, and that is the R-rated comedy. Because usually, up until I would say somewhere around 2012. Let's go 2012. Because nowadays it's very hard for an R-rated comedy to succeed at the box office. And I mean like really succeed. One movie that I truly do wish would have, like one of the best R-rated comedies of the last 10 years was Tag. And critically, I think it's at like 50% or something along that. And it made, I think, like $75 million worldwide. It made like 54 domestically, but then again, it opened up the same weekend as Incredibles 2. Now, of course, that is not the same audience, but then again, like a lot of adults, it was 14 years later, so everybody who watched The Incredibles in theaters were now adults. And yeah, they probably could have went to go see Tag, but they probably want to go see Incredibles 2 over and over and over and over again. And that's fine. I understand. It's Incredibles 2. I saw both in the theaters. But I've watched Tag a handful of times, but I have only seen Incredibles 2 twice, I think. And again, I own it. I just haven't popped it in. But I see nowadays that, like, the only, because Netflix is fairly consistent in making R-rated comedy, specifically that's because of Sandler's deal with them. Excuse me. But at the same time, like, the last R-rated comedy in theaters, and again, like, I'm sorry, but I don't include Deadpool in those specifically just because those are superhero films. And again, like, I know it's out there comedies also, but, like, they're categorized as superhero films. They're categorized as Marvel comic book adaptation films. So that's why I keep them in there. But I mean, like the last just straight up broad studio comedy that got released in theaters to make over $100 million was Girls Trip. And that was 3 years ago. And before that, the summer of 2016, we had Bad Moms. That movie made $110 million domestically, I believe. And before that, because in that same summer we had also Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates, but that movie only made, I think, like 45-ish domestically. And then before that, you had also in that same summer, Neighbors 2 came out, but Seth Rogen has even admitted now, because he admitted that, because now they're because his company, he has said, like, their company is very skeptical about making sequels now, because he said, I don't know what his exact words, but he was implying, like, we made Neighbors 2, and it was obvious that nobody really wanted it. I thought it was really good. It's one of the better comedic sequels that has ever been made. But then again, I feel like it's because it opened up on the same weekend as X-Men Apocalypse, the Angry Birds movie, and again, I know those are not the same audiences. Oh yeah, it also opened up. I think it opened up the same weekend as The Other Guys as well. It is R-rated, but I don't think it's like a straight up comedy. It's a crime action cop movie. But that first Neighbors movie, I remember I went to go see that on its opening day, and it was a fairly almost sold out full crowd, and that movie made $150 million domestically. It made $49 million on its opening weekend. The sequel, Neighbors 2: Sorority Rising, its entire domestic gross was what that first movie made in its first 4 days. And I think it's truly just because now we are moving towards this new era of where we want, the movie-going audience wants to spend our money. And then another one that bombed, and critically, I know this movie This movie critically, I think, is at like 20%. I like the Chips movie. I thought it's stupid, it's ridiculous, but the action scenes are really well done. The motorcycle stunts are fucking awesome in that movie. And another R-rated comedy that critically got panned, I believe it was at 17%, and it made $177 million worldwide, if not 175, but it only made, I think, 53 domestically, and that was the Baywatch movie. My thing is also critically on that movie. What did they expect when they made it when they were making a film adaptation based off a show that didn't really have much of a plot, except people running in slow motion and people's and women's jugs going up and down, up and down, up and down. Oh, sorry. Personally, to me, I feel like that was the best product that we could get if when you're making a film from that TV show. Oh yeah, and also in the same summer as Neighbors was 22 Jump Street, and that movie crushed at the box office. It made more than the first one, and I think that was also just because the first one was such a critical surprise, and it caught everybody off guard. Because I feel like, because again, I don't know anybody else out there, but I was a fan of that TV show. I watched it all the time. I still watch an episode of it here and there now, but because it's off Hulu now, I forget where I was. And now it's on Amazon where it's free with ads. So I'll probably go watch it over there now. I know that, and I was just, also because I was just curious, like, what are they going to do with this property? And, like, what ratings is it going to be? And I thought it was funny how the movie got rated R. I was like, what are they doing off this property? Because it was a cop show, but for teenagers. Because, again, it's about young-looking cops infiltrating high schools. And it worked because what they made, not that made fun of, but they recognized the ridiculousness of an idea of that. They recognized how ridiculous that idea sounded, and then they did it over and over and over again for a solid 110 minutes. And because of that, the movie made 200 million worldwide, and I think it made 130, if not 125-ish domestically. And then the sequel, by the way, smart on the studios to release the 22 Jump Street in the summer. Because the first one got released in March 2012. It didn't have much competition. It had Hunger Games, but that was, again, not the same audience, like I said. But then Project X had been away from theaters. It had been in theaters for a while now, and that was starting to go down. That was another one where... if you think financially, the movie did very well because, again, it made $100 million off a budget of $12 million. But I feel like also because the controversy was just so high that I feel like maybe people just weren't seeing it. Because I remember when that movie came out, if anybody remembers when Project X was coming out, how much of a big deal that was. I remember in algebra class, and a classmate of mine who he and I would talk movies with when we break into groups to do the work. We would talk about shit that's out in the theaters, and he's talked about how he and a bunch of people that I knew went to go see Project X at the Palladio in Folsom, and they were checking IDs. They were getting very serious about it because of the fact that it was a big movie about a high school party gone wrong. And it was heavily marketed in the fact it was marketed to where, like, hey, this shit happened. And it has a bunch of, and they did the smart thing by hiring mostly unknown actors. Let me look at the stats on that movie. Did you guys see Project X? If so, what were your thoughts? I thought it was a really well done movie. I've seen it, I think 6 times, maybe 7. I remember that was a big deal to me to go see that movie. And then finally, by luck, I was going to me and my mom and my sister were going to the house, or going over to a house that's in Clear Lake, our Clear Lake house, and it was playing at the theater. I was like, oh my god, I gotta go, because this is back when the theater was just, because that theater, I love that theater specifically because back in the day, it was a lot of movies that had been out for a couple weeks, if not a couple months, and you could go see them for $5, and that was one of the movies. And yeah, so I'm reading the stats here. Budget of $12 million, and it made worldwide box office of $102.7 million. So overall, 8.5 times your budget. And when you think marketing and everything, you probably made a profit of at least, I would say, maybe 30 million, if that. Because again, I don't know how that shit works. I just know they made a profit. Yeah, it was saying that it was highly popular with males and youth. 58% of the opening weekend audience was male, and 67% was under the age of 25. Then again, when you have a high school movie in the found footage style and it looks chaotic, then yeah, it's gonna make a fuck ton of money. Sorry, I'm out of breath a little bit. And then also, what's funny is that summer we had two specific R-rated comedies that I can remember. Like, actually, three that I can remember off the top of my head. The first one was That's My Boy, an Adam Sandler movie that was so fucking funny. And I know it's critically not received well, and people were not a fan of what it was about. It was about Adam Sandler as a young kid knocking up his teacher, and that was a whole thing. But I just thought it was so funny, and I appreciated how fucked up they made it to be. And then, of course, it bombed. It only made $57 million worldwide, and the budget was $70. And for those that don't know, usually Adam Sandler's movies are minimum $60 million. And usually the average ones are a minimum or 60, and the average is at least 70 to 80. And I think it's just because of where he shoots them, and all the people that were in the movies, and all this shit. But I think one reason why it failed, financially at least, is because his film previous to that was Jack and Jill. And I feel most people can agree Jack and Jill was the turning point of Adam Sandler towards general movie audiences. Because before that, most of his movies were hit after hit after hit after hit. Now, if I look up his stats here, because even though his movies are panned, he's still one of the biggest box office stars on the planet. Then of course on his Wikipedia page, it's noted that he's a Republican. I don't give a fuck. And because I know his movies fairly well, so let's see. Let's go from, let's say 1998. So it says here his his first movie was Going Overboard, that he doesn't talk about because it's bad and he doesn't want to talk about it. He made it when he was like 22 or 23 years old. Shakes the Clown, he had a small part in. It's a Bobcat Goldthwait movie. I highly recommend it. It's fucked up, but it's good. Had a tiny part in Coneheads. He had a really good role in the movie that nobody saw called Airheads. It's about a band called the Lone Rangers. That's right, plural, the Lone Rangers. It's Brendan Fraser, Steve Buscemi, Adam Sandler. They hold the radio station hostage. Turns it into this whole thing. And Farley's in it, and Harold Ramis is in it, I believe. Michael Richards is in it. It's a solid cast, but nobody saw it. Mixed Nuts, I know that's a Steve Martin movie, and I know nobody saw that one. I heard it was shit. Then his first one where he started to have control over it was Billy Madison. Then you had Happy Gilmore, and then a movie that he was in that critically is not well received. I think it's fun. It's called Bulletproof. I will say, shockingly violent. It's an action comedy with him and Damon Wayans, but it was shockingly violent. And then after that, his first really big success, The Wedding Singer. It made $80 million. Him and Drew Barrymore, well received. Except for Ebert gave it, I think Ebert gave it either 1 star or a half a star. All I can say is just, what the fuck, Ebert. Next one, The Waterboy. Waterboy was huge. And then Big Daddy was fucking huge. Little Nicky, box office bomb. But I think over time that movie has gotten a much better following. Now he was in Punch Drunk Love, but that was an indie movie that not a lot of people saw. But of course, that was the first really big dramatic role that he was in. And from what I understand, he was on the short list to get a Best Actor nomination at the Oscars. And then Mr. Deeds, that movie made profit. Eight Crazy Nights didn't do well, but that's one I watch every year during the holidays. Anger Management is a hit. 50 First Dates, a hit. He was in Spain. As an actor, he was in Spanglish, but it didn't do that well because James L. Brooks movies cost way too much fucking money. It's probably the reason why he doesn't do them now. Because his last one, which was in 2010, How Do You Know, is a rom-com that cost $120 million. That is right, a rom-com with Reese Witherspoon, Paul Rudd, Owen Wilson, and Jack Nicholson cost $120 million. And then after Spanglish, Longest Yard, another hit. Movie he produced, Grandma's Boy. Box office bomb, but it has made over $50 million in home media sales. I think that movie true. That's because I saw it on FX. Then it went to Comedy Central, and over the time, it's just that's got a giant cult following. That movie is fucking hilarious. He produced Benchwarmers. Box office hit, not a major one, but it was a hit because the budget was fairly small. Click, a hit. Dramatic role of Reign Over Me. Budget was small, so they didn't lose a whole bunch of money, but nobody saw it. Chuck and Larry, controversial, but it made money. Zohan, made money. Bedtime Stories, made money. Funny People went financially underperformed because the budget was so high. Grown Ups, hit. Just Go With It, hit. Zookeeper, hit. Then of course, Jack and Jill. Now, this is considered to be one of the worst movies ever made. Now, the budget was $79 million, and it made $149.7 million worldwide. That number, 149.7, that's usually what his movies make domestically. I think domestically, how much money did the movie make domestically? Let's see here. It made 74. That's not a bad number when you consider how bad that movie is. And then his next one is That's My Boy. And I feel if he had not made Jack and Jill, he would have. That's My Boy would have crushed. Plus, it came out Father's Day weekend, so it was marketed towards, hey, Father's Day, go see this movie. And then, of course, Hotel Transylvania, big hit. Grown Ups 2, giant hit. Blended. Financially, I know because that was his first movie that he did with Warner Brothers. The budget was $40 million and it made $128 million. So as long as it's 3 times the budget, it made it in the clear. And then in 2015 he made Pixels, which I remember saying, "Oh, this movie sucks," but then again, the movie's okay, it's fun. Now the movie made $244.9 million, which is not a bad number, but the budget was between 88 to 129. So in all honesty, I don't really know. And that was kind of where we started to see the change because it was well known his company made this deal with Netflix. Now, of course, in theaters, he's still in. He has the Hotel Transylvania franchise, and he's in dramatic roles like Uncut Gems, which he should have been nominated for a fucking Oscar for. But yeah, he's made in total. Let's see here. These includes movies that he's produced for Netflix. And of course, he's in Meyerowitz Stories, but I don't count that because, again, that's just an acting job. I'm talking about movies his company made. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm also including a special, too. 7. All right, so at the moment, actually, if you count Father of the Year, that's 8. So 8 total, and then he has Hubby Halloween coming out, and I'm guessing October. So in total, I think that's 9. And then I know he's making in total. His contract is for in total 12 movies. So I think he's got 3 more, and then he's done. And I don't know what he'll do after that. Maybe he'll keep doing them because he makes profit for that. And I think of all the Netflix movies that he's done, his best one was Murder Mystery. It was good. It was really good. It was fun. It moved. It was only 97 minutes, and it just, compared to a lot of these Netflix movies that he was doing, this one felt the most cinematic. And apparently it was the most watched thing on the streaming service. And then it said in July, because it premiered on June 14th, and it said in July 2019, they reported that it was viewed by 73 million households in its first 4 weeks, making Sandler's most successful film on the platform. Guess what, people? I know that his movies are received terribly, but you know what? They're fun. He gets to shoot movies with people that he gets along with, and he shoots them with his boys and his pals, and they do very well. And one filmmaking duo that now, of course, they're not. I don't know if they're going to do a direct another movie together again. No, oh god, that hurt. Sorry. I don't know if they're going to direct another movie together again anytime soon, but I know of the Farrelly brothers, Pete won, I think, 3 Oscars? Did he win 3 Oscars for Green Book, or did he win 2? Let's see here. Let's look it up. He won 2 Oscars for Best Picture and Screenplay. And from what I understand, Bobby needed some time away because I know that he went through a family tragedy in his immediate family, and he just needed time. What I loved was how he was talking about because during the Hollywood Reporter Roundtable writing thing, he was saying how, listen, if my brother had been involved, the movie would have been so much better because my brother makes the movies better. And him and his brother have made some of the most fucked up movies in the last 25 years. In that the humor is very gross, but you cannot help but laugh your ass off. And from what I understand, I don't know what movie it is, but apparently they made a movie that I guess it was so bad they didn't want their name on. They want their name on it. So technically, their first movie credited is Dumb and Dumber. And from what I understand, Pete said that script sat around for 4 or 5 years, and nobody wanted to make it. And then when Jim was on In Living Color, he got so popular. And I remember I think it's because In Living Color, and also because of Ace Ventura and The Mask, his salary went up to $7 million, and it was the first big salary that he got made. I don't know what he made on The Mask. But I know that, for Dumb and Dumber, he got paid $7 million, and I think Jeff Daniels only got paid like $50,000. And again, you know what? That's fine. That's fine because it was considered to be kind of a risk to have Jeff Daniels, because Jeff Daniels was the dramatic guy. I mean, Terms of Endearment, and some other movies like Arachnophobia, amongst others. So that's kind of like a for a serious actor like that to be in a movie where he's literally having explosive diarrhea on the toilet, that's a risk. And from what I understand, Jim wanted an actor, and he got an actor. And I think, he has Emmys. He's been on Broadway. I know he was Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway for a long time. And I think now Ed Harris is doing it, or was doing it, because I know Broadway is shut down. And of course, he was on Newsroom. I haven't watched Newsroom. I know that he was on the Looming Tower, I believe that's what it was called. I haven't seen that yet, but I know it's about the guy who predicted something was going to happen to the Twin Towers. I believe that's what it's about. My apologies if I butchered what that plot was. I know he was on Godless. He's been doing a lot of work. But to me, his role, he will always be Harry Dunn from Dumb and Dumber to me. And the sequel, it's not great, but the sequel is fine. I admit it, if I had saw it in the theaters, I probably would have been I thought the sequel was funny. I thought it was funny, but if I know that if I saw that in the theaters on Friday night, I would have been dying laughing because it was probably going to be in a sold out crowd. Let me see, how much money is the sequel on Amazon? That's odd. Yeah, for some reason it's hell expensive, so I'll eventually find out how to use Media Shop, and I'll get it there. But anyway, so I thought the Dumb and Dumber, the sequel, was they admitted they had fun at the second one, and the second one was okay. It wasn't as well received, but it was passable for Dumb and Dumber 2. Because again, it had been 25 years. I know that it wouldn't have the same edge as the first one did. But going back to the Farrelly brothers, so Dumb and Dumber was their first one. Kingpin, nobody saw, box office underperformer, but that movie is fucking hilarious. Specifically, one scene. There is one specific scene. It's Woody Harrelson. If you don't know, Woody Harrelson plays a bowler. He loses a hand, so he has this weird wooden hand on, and he takes Randy Quaid, who's an Amish guy, on a bowling trip, or a cross-country road trip, to go to these bowling tournaments, eventually to get to the bowling tournament in, I believe, Las Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. But there's one scene where he's on the Amish farm, and I think he pretends to be an Amish dude, or something like that. I think that's what Woody Harrelson is doing. And I believe it's Randy Quaid's father who asks him to take the horseshoes off of the horse. And you hear this screeching, and he comes out with the hooves. He basically cut off the horse's hooves. I know, that's fucked up, but when you watch the movie, it works so well, and it's fucking hysterical. And then after that, I think the next one was There's Something About Mary. That was like Dumb and Dumber was a massive hit. Kingpin underperformed at the box office, but There's Something About Mary was like a monster. And now I want to look at the Farrelly Brothers now. Bada yada 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 yada. By the way, I'm recording this on technically Friday morning at 12:39 a.m. at the moment. How's everybody doing? What are you doing at 12? What were you doing at 12:39 a.m.? Okay. Okay. And the next one technically was Me, Myself, and Irene. Jim Carrey one. That's a movie that what did that get received critically? Okay, critically 47%. That is definitely one of their more raunchier ones. It's not for everybody. I thought it just fucking worked on so many levels. Jim Carrey in that movie is amazing because he has to split between two different people. And then they technically directed live action scenes for Osmosis Jones. It's a very weird movie. It's a weird animated live action hybrid. And then Shallow Hal was their first really big foray into, I think, serious. It was a rom-com, but there were some very serious moments. Especially, there's one specific scene where it's Jack Black in the hospital, and like Rosemary is not entertaining, but she's hanging out with the kids that are in the hospital. And Jack Black is talking to this one girl. And she doesn't, she looks fine. And he's talking to her. Blah 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 blah. Then he goes back to. And this is when his curses weared off, because the whole thing about the movie is he's seeing beauty on the inside. So when he sees this girl again, like she's heavily scarred. And in many ways, like that was I feel like the first really serious moment that they handled so well in a movie like that. There's some other scenes in that movie too, but that was the first one where it was just like, wow, that was deep. And then personally, my favorite movie that they did is from 2003, Stuck on You, with Matt Damon and Greg Kinnear. This movie is so good. It is so good. It is, and nobody really saw it. It made $65.8 million. It came out around Christmas time, 2003. I was 7 years old. I didn't see it. I went to go see Cheaper by the Dozen for my 7th birthday. Yeah, so the movie cost $55 million and it made $65 million. Another one where it underperformed, but critically it was at 61%. I think the Ebert and Robert gave it 2 thumbs up. That's one where it's such a sweet movie. It is so sweet. And then another one that is really good but nobody really saw was Fever Pitch. And this is I think they're like, as the Farrelly Brothers, this is definitely the most un-Farrelly Brothers movie they ever made. Because again, it's a romantic comedy about where Drew Barrymore falls in love with Jimmy Fallon, and then when October hits around, so he meets Jimmy. She meets Jimmy Fallon in October. He's a very sweet guy, very caring, and then, basically, I think it's I forget what the timeline of it is, but like when training season happens, Drew Barrymore sees Jimmy Fallon on TV, and he's an animal. Then you find out how obsessed with the Boston Red Sox he is, and it's a really good rom-com. I recommend it. Their next one was the one they directed was The Heartbreak Kid. I haven't seen this movie the whole way. It, $60 million, $128.5 million. Critically, I know it was not received well. It was, let's see what it was. What is it? 29. So, I haven't seen it the whole way. I've seen parts of it, and I just found a lot of the characters to just be very unlikable. Now, the next one that is on here is Hall Pass. Did anybody see Hall Pass? It's with Owen Wilson, Jason Sudeikis, Jennifer Fisher's in it, a.k.a. Pam from The Office. Christina Applegate is in it. Stephen Merchant is in it. It was a really funny movie. It is ridiculous. It can be very offensive to some. Because their humor is very hit or miss depending on where your sense of humor or sense is. I do feel as though if you're, no offense, but woke people should not be watching the Fairley Brother movies. You just should not, because if you do, you're gonna get very, very, very offended by pretty much everything that comes out of the character's mouth. And especially with this one, so it's about two dudes and their wives give them a hall pass, a week off from marriage, do whatever the fuck they want, and of course, stupid hijinks ensue. It's got all the Fairley Brothers humor in there. You know, there's the one guy, they all eat a brownie, and one of them literally takes a shit on a golf course in one of the sand dunes. And I think it opened up in January. You know, and it opened up number 2 at the box office, made $13 million, and then it made $45 million domestically and $38 million other territories. So in total, $83.2 million worldwide, critically 33%. And I remember, I wanted to go see that movie so bad. It came out in end of February. I wanted to go see that movie so bad, and my dad was just like, no, I don't want to see that. And a friend of mine went saw it in the theater, and he said that the one guy acted just like an idiot. So I was just like, all right, fine, fucker. The next one, The Three Stooges. This movie is fucking funny. And again, this is, The Three Stooges is just about people getting hurt and poking each other in the eye. That movie was it's so funny. Now, $30 million. Budget 54 worldwide, almost 55, critically 51. So, very mixed. Kind of around, split down the middle. What the fuck was that? Sorry. And then the next one they directed together and the last one was Dumb and Dumber 2. Now, Pete has directed a handful of things by himself. He directed a excerpt from a part of the movie 43, which is another one of the worst movies ever made. And then by himself, he made Green Book, and he won 2 Oscars. I hope that these two work together again, because I miss the Fairley Brothers working together. Their movies are funny. Their movies are fun. Their movies are... And again, like I said, woke audiences do not watch their movies. You'll be very offended. And one person that definitely couldn't work today is Mel Brooks. Even though, again, Mel Brooks is a genius. He's created some of the funniest movies on the planet. And he has made so many funny movies. Again, he probably has made some of the best spoof movies ever made. I mean, you go into Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles. Of all his movies, Blazing Saddles is the one where you definitely cannot get away with that today. And that was one of the few, because that movie is very, very edgy. But here's the crazy thing about it. You want to know what the crazy thing is? Mel Brooks had final cut. That's right. Mel Brooks had final cut on that movie, so he can literally do whatever they want, and the studio couldn't interfere. And there was one scene where he's talked about it on Conan, back in 2012. So he was saying because again that movie could not get made today, and Mel Brooks has even said, oh, yeah, I know I could not get that movie made today. You couldn't make it. It's just people don't respond to that anymore. And plus, it's too much of a risk for the studios. So anyway, Conan asked him, is there anything you took out because you just know, hey, listen, I just can't do this. And then Mel Brooks said, oh, well, I had final cut, so technically, legally, the studio couldn't do anything. But there's a scene where it's Cleavon Little and Madeline Kahn. They're eating the Schnitzengruben. Whatever that is. I just know that it's basically sausage. And then the lights go out. And I think she blows it. The lights go out. And then you hear Madeline Kahn just going, what is it true? What they say about you people? Is it true? Oh, is it true? Oh my God, is it true? And I think Cleavon, Mel Brooks said, Mel Brooks said the Cleavon's line, I think it was something along the lines of, I don't remember exactly, but it was along the lines of, I hate to say it, man, I hate to break it to you, man, but you're sucking on my elbow. And again, that's a very funny thing, because again, all this dialogue is happening in the dark. And that would have just fucking murdered. But then again, that was definitely pushing the boundaries, especially for 1974. Now, again, I don't, because I know it came out in '74. I don't know, like what did he either shoot it in months before it came out in '74? Did he shoot it in '73? Did he shoot it in '72? I don't know. I just know that Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein came out in the same year. That I know. And another one of his was Spaceballs, where he parodies Star Wars. And I need to look up, like, what did Lucasfilm think of that? Let's see. Let me look it up. And that's another one where you definitely couldn't say that today. Because, again, like, there's a scene where, because President Scroob tells Dark Helmet to calm the desert. So he has all of his stormtroopers literally combing the desert with giant combs. So they're literally combing the desert. So he goes, "You guys find anything?" And they go, "No, sir." And then he asks some other people, "How about you guys?" "Nothing yet, sir." And then he goes, "What about you?" And then it cuts to, oh my god, this is all the time. He said, it cuts to the Black Stormtroopers, and they have an Afro pick that they're combing the desert with, and combing the desert with, and they just go, "We ain't found shit." Oh god, yeah. So again, I keep saying this. A lot of these movies you can't make today because now I'm not saying the audiences are sensitive, but just audiences' sense of humor is changing. Like Todd Phelps talked about, the reason, like his Joker was his response to woke culture, because again, a lot of the movies that he makes, they push boundaries, and you can't really make those today anymore. Sorry, but it's true. Now Sandler is making his the way he wants to make them, because again, he's making them on a streamer, and they are a big hit for the streaming service. Holy crap, 41 minutes already. I think this may be my longest episode yet. So let's see here. Okay, so here's what George Lucas thought of Spaceballs. He said, it says, although he prevented Brooks from merchandising the film, Lucas embraced Spaceballs fully. "Quote unquote, his company, ILM, did all the space effects and post-production for us. And he was so complimentary and about the picture. He said, take out the comedy, and it really works as an adventure." So, you know what? Yeah, he gave it a decent response. And also, Todd Phelps is another one, because majority of his movies are very, very broad movies, but also his movie, specifically his later career, broke, just kind of opened up a new ground for box office. Excuse me. Okay, so let me break this down, okay? So his first movie is Road Trip, solid hit. Second one, Old School. One of the funniest movies ever made. One of the most one of Will Ferrell's best movies he's ever done. His third one, Starsky and Hutch. Solid movie adaptation of an old show. You kept the core ideas, but then you made it mildly modern. It still took place in the 70s, but you just had added modern elements to it. His next one, School for Scoundrels, financially didn't do well, critically didn't get received very well. I think it's all right. Because I remember because I just wanted to clear out my collection and get a little bit of cash, so I just took a bunch of my shit to Dimple. That was one of them, and I bought a brand new copy at a media outlet for $2. So then after that, if I'm not mistaken, what is this next? Because I'm trying to think. I'm trying to lead up to what his other movie was. Checking to make sure if he made something before that. Because Todd started off with making documentaries. I know he made one about G.G. Allen. And for those who don't know, G.G. Allen is this really famous heavy hardcore punk rocker. To the point, like the literally opening, like from what I understand, on stage he would cut himself, he would shit in his hand and throw it. I tried to watch that documentary. It's like 55 minutes. I stopped after 20 seconds because he puts a hot dog in somebody's asshole and then starts eating it. So yeah, I'm out. And then another one that he made was Frat House for HBO. It was going to be an HBO doc, and then they premiered at Sundance, and because of some legal shit, because the frat people were just like, well, like, we didn't do this, blah, 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 and because Todd said on Stern, because I saw the clip, Todd was saying how, I guess the frat was saying, I don't know exactly what he said, but I know he was basically along the lines of, hey, we don't support this because we were very drunk and we don't know what we were saying, blah 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 blah, something along those lines. So yeah, he basically took a 3-year gap between the movie that truly did change his career, and that was The Hangover in 2009. I know it came out in the summer of 2009 because I remember that summer, this movie and Up were the big movies of the summer. It opened on June 5th, 2009, a budget of $35 million, and it made $467.5 million worldwide. Okay? And you may wonder, how much money was that domestically? And also, this is something that Todd did, which shows how smart he is, and he bets on himself. He declined to do a director's salary. He decided for a portion of I think 10% of the profits instead. Okay, so apparently it opened up on approximately 4,500 screens, 3,269 locations, and apparently it was opening up against Land of the Lost, and everybody was expecting Land of the Lost to be the big winner of the weekend, and this one was not going to be the other one. Obviously, that didn't end well because Land of the Lost bombed. Made $44.979 million on opening weekend, and then because word of mouth was just so good, that movie just kept going and going and going and going and going and going. Because everybody kept saying how good this movie was. So eventually, overall, the movie made $277 million domestically. Before that, I could think the last R-rated comedy really to make past $200 million in the theaters was Wedding Crashers. That was 2005, and I think that made $205 million. And I think that was another surprise hit based off just word of mouth. And then The Hangover 1 surpassed Beverly Hills Cop's record, the first Beverly Hills Cop, for the record of the highest grossing R-rated domestic box office. And because of that, he got a paycheck of about $50 million. Then the sequels did okay. Well, actually, the Hangover 2, critically not received very well. I think it's funny, but it made more than the first one. It made $586.8 million. So, yeah. And then the next one, Hangover Part 3, critically not well received, but it's just so different. It's so different. And critically not as well received, or financially not as big as the first two, but again, it still made $362 million worldwide. That's nothing to complain about. And now the budget was bigger. The budget was $103. A little too much, but you know what? It still made money. And then War Dogs was it was a comedy, but it was a lot darker. And it was a take on this crazy true story. Now, of course, a lot of the stuff has changed. Then, of course, and then he also produced A Star Is Born because him and Bradley Cooper have a production company together because they hit it off on The Hangover so well. And then, of course, he directed Joker. It made $1 billion. It's the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time, and he got nominated for, I believe, 3 Oscars, and he got a $100 million paycheck because, again, similar to Hangover, took no director's fee, took a percentage, and because the movie made $1 billion, he got a $100 million paycheck. So, Todd Phelps truly is one of the smartest fucking people on the planet in the film business. And then, how are you guys enjoying this episode so far? Are you guys enjoying me talk about the comedies, the comedic movies in theaters? How are you guys feeling about this? What are your thoughts? Comment below. I would love to know. Sorry, I had to take some water. And then, 2012 had 2012 specifically in the summer had, let me make sure this is correct. Yeah, so That's My Boy was the first one. Because again, I went off topic. The first R-rated comedy of summer 2012 was That's My Boy. Bomb. Second one was Ted. Ted made $500 million. And until Transformers 4, it was the highest grossing movie of Mark Wahlberg's career. And then later on, a few weeks later, was the movie The Watch. And critically, that movie's, I think that's at like 15% or something like that. I know it's very low, but I think that movie's fucking hilarious. Sorry, did you hear that burp too? Anyway, sorry. So The Watch, critically not well received, financially did not do well, but I think that movie's very underrated. It's one of Vince Vaughn's best performances. Vince Vaughn is so good in that movie. And I don't know why it didn't do well. Maybe it was because, again, it was August. And usually, for those that don't know, movie theater logic and studio logic, generally in this August is when the movie season is dying down. And then kind of in that late August to September, that's dumping ground for all the movies that they don't think are good. The other one is January. So generally, towards the end of August, early September, and January are dumping ground for the. And then of course in August, summer is winding down. But of course, in summer 2012, they had the Dark Knight Rises mass shooting, and of course, that really did fuck up movie theaters, especially in where the fuck was that? Was that Aurora, Illinois? I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Wait, where was that? I'm really sorry. I should know this. Yeah, so Aurora, Colorado. Sorry. Why did I say Aurora, Illinois? It's Aurora, Colorado. So yeah, that definitely fucked up the movie theaters. Not a whole lot, but I know that especially, I'm guessing, in the Colorado state, that fucked up movie theaters. And then you have all this other shit. And then, of course, people are kind of scared to go to the movies now. And actually, The Dark Knight Rises is, because I remember that was my only... Because I went to the Dark Knight Rises marathon, where it started, I think, at like 6 o'clock, if not 5 o'clock. The tickets were $25, but on the big screen, you had Batman Begins, followed by The Dark Knight, and then The Dark Knight Rises at midnight. You were there for, I think, 8 to 9 hours. And it was crazy. And I remember at midnight, they had the trailer for Gangster Squad, and there's a scene where they're shooting people in the movie theater on it. Just from they come out from the screen and start shooting people. And of course, understandably, that movie got pushed, and they had to redo it. Not redo the whole thing, but just retool. They cut out that scene and just retool the tone of what they were going with. But I know that because I know that Dark Knight Rises was still making money and it made over $1 billion and all that shit. But at the same time, I'm sure it financially would have done a little bit more if that hadn't happened. And then with The Watch, like I said, mid to late August. And also, I think Expendables 2 was around the same time, and that's also an R-rated movie and kind of similar audience range. But like I said, Watch didn't do well, critically didn't do well, but I think it's underrated. Now, in 2013 summer, you had Grown Ups 2. Yeah, This Is the End. You had, like I said, Hangover 3. You had a handful of comedies that did fairly well financially. This Is the End, I think, was made like... Let me see how much This Is the End made. Because This Is the End was Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg's directorial feature debut. And it was so well done. They did such a great job of parodying themselves and all this shit. And so let's see. Oh, it says it right here. $32 million budget and $126.5 million worldwide. So that's a very solid. That's almost 4 times your budget. And for those who don't know, if you want to make a movie, generally you need at least 2.5 times your budget, and then you're financially kind of in the clear. That is something that if somebody wants to be a movie somebody wants to be a filmmaker, and let's say somebody has a movie out, right? They're making a movie, it's coming out. As long as your movie makes 2.5 times your budget, you're in the clear. And so in 2013, you had This Is the End, Grown Ups 2. You had what the fuck did I just say? Hangover Part 3. And I think that was it. Yeah, I think that was it for that summer. And then 2014, you had Neighbors. You had 22 Jump Street. 2015, you had Ted 2, which underperformed at the box office. Oh yeah, 2014, you also had A Million Ways to Die in the West, which is a solid movie, but nobody really saw it. And I feel like it's kind of just because, again, this was Seth MacFarlane directing. It was coming right off of Ted. And Ted was such a smash that it was just so different. And maybe that's just because people were just turned off by it. And then the next summer, you had Ted 2 did not do that well. Oh yeah, summer 2013, The Heat. Arguably the biggest comedic hit of that summer, especially domestically, because word of mouth on that movie was so big. Oh yeah, and also in 2011 you had Bridesmaids, for crying out loud. Fuck, 2011 had a solid summer for comedies. And then, so going back to 2014 now. And then Wasted Eye in the West. And then, of course, 2015, you had Spy, which Paul Feig movie with Melissa McCarthy. I think it truly is his best one that he's directed. I think it's the best one Melissa McCarthy has done with him. Bridesmaids got her an Oscar nomination, but that was because she was so good in that role. But like with Spy, you had a fully realized character. You had a strong arc. She kicked a lot of ass. She was also really fucking funny. And then 2015, also summer, had Ted 2. Let me check to see if this did okay worldwide at the box office. Okay, Wikipedia that shit. Okay, not great. So, $68 million budget, and it made $216 million worldwide. Now, again, it's not bad. But again, compared to the first one, because the first one's budget was $50 million and it made $549.4 million worldwide. And I think maybe just because that one was such a surprise, and people were excited for the sequel, and then I guess when people saw it, they were like, it's okay. I think it's decent. I think it's a decent movie. And then I was saying how Ted 2, it was director McFarlane's second consecutive underperforming opening following A Million Ways to Die in the West. A Million Ways to Die in the West, $40 million budget, $87.2 million worldwide. So yeah, underperforming very much. And one franchise that is one of the best R-rated franchises ever made, and it's one of the few franchises that of R-rated movies. Yes, you have the 2 Jump Street films. And then the Hangover trilogy is solid, but that first one is the only one that's like truly great. Like, The Hangover 1 is a movie that it's a perfect movie. It just works. Right? Another franchise that is solid is the Harold and Kumar movies. But, again, because again, first one was shockingly good. Second one was funny, but it wasn't as good. Third one, again, funny, but not as good as the first one, but I thought it was a little bit funnier than the second one. But one franchise that's always consistent, and this is an R-rated franchise that was always consistent, was the American Pie movies. Now, again, American Pie came out summer 99, and again, July 9th, 1999 it opened. Because I remember that because I posted about it on my Instagram today. 21 years ago, it opened up in theaters. The budget, I think, was $11 million. And Jason Biggs talked about how, on Larry King, it was a studio picture for Universal, but at the same time, the budget was so low. So let's see here. Wikipedia, that shit. So let's look at box office performance. Okay, yeah. So the budget on the first American Pie was $11 million. All right. And again, came out in July. It was such a hit. The budget was $11 million. Opening weekend 18.7. In North America, made 102. And for those, because I had a debate with this on YouTube, on a YouTube comment thread, because I made a comment about American Reunion. I will get to that. But so first one overall, $235 million worldwide on a budget of 11. Now, the second one, critically one of the more mixed ones, but at the same time, it's the most successful one. Because opening weekend, it made $45 million. And again, this was August 2001. So this is one of the last times in September in that year before 9/11 happened that a movie was doing very well. So for American Pie 2, $45 million opening weekend, $145 million domestically, $287 million overall worldwide. The sequel was $33 million opening weekend, $104.5 North America, overall worldwide $231. And then, of course, this is where I have the debate on a comment thing. Okay? Because people need to know a fucking difference. Sorry, but you need to know the fucking difference. Okay? So, this American Reunion, if I think the best, or one of the best ones. It's because obviously the first one is the first one. For me, it goes that first one, and then Reunion, then 2, and then American Wedding dead last. I like all of them. I think they're all really, 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 really good. But some are a little bit better than others. And so American Reunion came out 13 years after the first one. Actually, no, almost 13 years, because first one, July 99. The fourth one, April 2012. And they made a joke about, like, this was, it's a late high school reunion. Instead of 10, it's 13-year high school reunion, where you get everybody. And again, that movie had literally pretty much everybody from that first one is in that movie. And some of them are probably came in and shot for a day, if not a couple hours. Now, domestically, did not do well. Domestically, it only made $57 million. Now, worldwide, it made $234. And again, I made a comment about this, because obviously I want American Pie 5, and apparently the talks were that it took place in Vegas. I think it was called American Vacation or something. I think Hayden, John Hurwitz and Hayden Schlossberg, the Cobra Kai creators, they created the Harold and Kumar franchise. They were hired to come back, and apparently the rumor is it takes place in Vegas and it's called American Vacation. Now, I've talked about how I want to see that one, but Sean William Scott even said it didn't do this fourth one, American Reunion, did not do well domestically. It didn't. And people were saying, and I said this, we probably won't get it because it did not do well domestically. Financially, it didn't do well. Then people were like, well, it made $234. That's more than the American Wedding. But again, like, you need to realize this is an R-rated studio film. Okay? Now, this is a bad decision to have it be released in April. That should have come out in the summer. I say they should have released it a few weeks after Ted, and it would have been, I think it did a lot better. Now, this opened up, I think, a couple weeks after, if not the week after Hunger Games did. And again, not the same audience. I know that. But also, again, competition from 21 Jump Street still. 21 Jump Street had only been in theaters for, I think, like 3 weeks. And it was still crushing. And American Reunion and Jump Street were mixing over, right? And this one did not do as well. I think that's just because it was poorly released. It came out in April. All the other ones came out in July and August. And this is something people need to realize. When you are making an R-rated comedy, just comedies in general, right? Of course, you can talk about overall worldwide box office, but in reality, studios don't care about worldwide box office as much. They talk about how much money it makes overall, but secretly, they care more about domestic gross. That is North America. So you have United States and Canada. Okay, that is the one where they care about the most, and that is because those are the major one. That is the major audience they care about. Because as long as a R-rated comedy as long as a comedy in general just clears $100 million, you are golden. Okay. Let's say overall you make $300 million worldwide, right? That's good, especially for a comedy. That's great. But as long as you make $100 million domestically, they care more about the fact that, hey, we made over $100 million domestically. That's what they care about more. That is what they care about more. They don't care about worldwide. They talk about it. They say, oh, it's great. It made so much money total. But they care more about what it makes in North America because that is their first audience that they ship out. Because, again, worldwide, that is a lot of countries combined. All the other territories are combined. So, again, like specifically, let's talk about American Pie 2, okay? North America, that is the United States and Canada alone, $145.1 million. Other territories, 142.45 million. And I iterate, other territories. That is all the other parts of the world that it got shown in combined together. Okay? They care more about what it makes in North America alone, because that shows if it does well in North America, we have a hit. And I don't know how to make it more simpler than that. And people were on the comment section like, hey, it made more money than this. But again, like, sorry, YouTube commenters who were commenting on my thing. Let's see what they said. Fuck it, I don't care. Let's find that shit. Let's see here. Let's see, is this it? Need to find that shit. I need to find that shit, man. It's going. I'm going down my YouTube notifications. I'll find it. Just give me a second. Overall, while I'm having you guys wait, how you guys been doing? How you guys been doing during? Because again, I know it's summer, but at the same time, we're still dealing with pandemic. Sorry, but we still are. Let's see if this is it. Yeah, there we go. Found it. So here's what I said. This one guy says, seeing them in a scene like this, which is the scene where it's Stifler talking with the boys, and then Stifler tells off his boss, and they go to the reunion. They say, seeing them in a scene like this makes me wish we got one more movie. I said, there were talks of them doing a film set in Vegas, but one reason why it won't get made is due to it underperforming domestically. I mean, of course it was going to happen. It came out only 2 weeks after Hunger Games came out, and it came out in April, and not like the summer like the previous 3. This guy says, Part 5 is still happening. And I said, I hope you're right. Or it said, some dude tells me it's still happening. And then this other guy goes, how are they underperforming? Wedding cost $50 million, they brought in $250. That's a pretty damn good profit. They will make another one. Let's see here. Oh yeah, something else with that, and they said, and then they face competition next month with the Avengers. Should have been a later summer release. I agree. And I said, for those films, studios care more about domestic than international, because that's right. Because North America is one section, other territories combined. And again, if I make a studio comedy, let's say it's my first one, right? And my first one, and I make it for a very low budget. The budget, let's say if it's for a studio comedy, it's very low. Hypothetical Sense movie is about a bunch of college freshmen trying to score at their first big party, and one of them hooks up with another roommate sister. And again, this is a very broad. This is just off the top of my head, right? I shoot that movie for, let's say, $19 million budget, and let's say it makes overall worldwide 127. Okay, this is just a fake number. 127 worldwide, but if it makes 100 million domestically and 28 million in other territories, that is a fucking win. Because it shows, hey, I got a niche with our core audience that we're going for, which is North America, United States, and Canada. And also another R-rated comedy that just came into my head. Late August 2013, We're the Millers. Okay? And I recently, a Twitter poll was asked, like, what's the one sequel you wish you could see? I want to see a sequel to that because they announced it, and I was very excited for it, okay? super pumped for it because, again, that was such a surprise movie. I think it made 270 worldwide, but domestically, it made 150. That is a big fucking deal, man. And again, that movie was just word of mouth, word of mouth, word of mouth, word of mouth, word of mouth. That's just facts. That's what it was. It was all word of mouth. Because of that, I think the opening weekend was 26, and then it ended up grossing 150. And I think 270 worldwide. I think, if not somewhere around there. But they care more about domestic. And probably one of the biggest, shockingly hits was Meet the Fockers. Meet the Fockers, I think, came out Christmas. And let me see how much money that made. Domestically. Of course, worldwide, that's big. But let's see what Meet the Fockers did domestically. Okay, worldwide, 522.7. All right. But, so when did this come out? Christmas, December 22nd, 2004. So, Christmas. It ended its domestic run with $279.26 million. Okay? That is just $279 million in the U.S., or rather North America alone. That is, if a comedy makes that much money worldwide, that is fucking amazing. But the fact that movie made that domestically, that is more insane. And I want you guys to comment. What is an R-rated comedy that you saw, let's say, in the last few years, recently, right? What's the one that you saw, and you find out how much money that it made, and you wish it should have made? You wish it would have made more. Another movie that came out in the summer of 2016 that nobody saw was Popstar. I think it was like a $20 million budget. It was the Lonely Island movie. Everybody was so excited that it only made $9 million. I think it's just because Universal didn't know how to market it. Because again, they were heavily talking about the Bieber concept of it, but it's not about a Bieber guy. It is about a member of a boy band, and the boy band coming back together. That's what the movie is about. It's not about a guy it's not about a Bieber type. Bieber, did I say Beaver or did I say Bieber? Let's just say Bieber type, right? It's a guy that's kind of like Justin Bieber, but then in reality, that's not what it's about. That's what the trailers made it seem to be about. But it's more about a one member of a boy band that becomes more successful than everybody else in that boy band. And they all go their separate ways. Right. It came out on June 3rd, 2016. Nobody saw it. And I remember checking Box Office Mojo, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows was number 1. And I'm looking, where the hell is Popstar? All the way down at number 10. I think it made like $4 million. Nobody saw it. It's fucking insane. And another one I think I talked about was Baywatch. Critically, not do well. Financially, didn't do well. I don't understand what they wanted more with it, what they wanted with that, but you know what? It should have made more because again, that's the best movie you could think with a property like that. And another one that did financially fairly well, but so another one that did fairly well domestically or worldwide was Why Him? It came out Christmas. It was like 38%, but that movie's fucking hysterical. That's one of those movies where if you accept the humor, it's going to make you laugh your ass off, but if not, you're going to hate every single fucking second of it. It made 118 worldwide, and for a fact that it's an R-rated broad comedy to come out on Christmas. And it made that. That is amazing. Comedies are a lot harder to make now, because you have to realize the audiences aren't the same, audiences are changing. This is something that's going to get brought up, even though it's something I don't really give a fuck about. The Scorsese Marvel shit. Rather, just the Scorsese superhero shit. I always said, who gives a fuck? Who cares? It is Scorsese. He is probably the greatest filmmaker alive. Sorry, Spielberg. You probably are the most successful one ever to come out of a guy's balls. But at the same time, like, Scorsese has made masterpiece, 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 masterpiece. Steven Spielberg makes a masterpiece like a Schindler's List, and a Jurassic Park, and an E.T., and a Jaws. Then he makes movies that are good, like The Adventures of Tintin, War Horse, alright, War of the Worlds. Some movies that find an audience later, like Minority Report. I know Minority Report made money, but Minority Report was very high concept. And especially over time, people have liked that movie a lot more. And, of course, Scorsese made the comments, Marvel movies aren't cinema, and everybody's like, what? Well, technically they are, because they're in the theaters. But what he means is, because, he's not wrong, they're theme park rides. And then Harloff talked about it, or Christian Harloff of Schmodown Entertainment Network, give that channel a thumbs up and subscribe. He said how, they're like television episodes. Like, the MCU is a long-form television show that's been going on since 2008. Right? And Scorsese eventually made a more, like, I understand what he was saying. This is truly what he meant. Obviously, movie audiences have changed since he was younger, or since when he was growing up. And he doesn't care if you go see those movies, but don't forget about filmmakers like Paul Thomas Anderson, Greta Gerwig, Noah Baumbach. Character-driven small movies. Because I talked about this on one of the podcast episodes, I think. If I haven't, I'll talk about it now. Disney, I like your content, but I hate you as a fucking company. I hate you. Iger, you have made the company increase its value by 400%. You obviously you're one badass motherfucker, and you're doing your job very well. I just don't like how your company pretty much takes up all the theaters, and those small movies get thrown out after 2 weeks because nobody goes to see them, whereas your movies are in the theaters for 3 months because everybody goes to see them. And again, I'm not critiquing who goes sees what, but a movie like Booksmart comes out Memorial Day weekend, nobody goes to go see it, and again, this is not the same movie, but Aladdin, he makes I think like 97 on its opening weekend, something like that. I know it made a shit ton of money. All right, and again, that summer of 2019, you had I'm counting Endgame, Pikachu. You had a lot of shit come out, right? But Endgame, because of Endgame, a movie like Long Shot pretty much flops because the budget is like 40 and it only made like 50 worldwide. Because that movie came out 1 week after Endgame. And here's the thing. With a movie like that, it's pretty much a finale to a big, long 12-year arc. Actually, no, 10-year arc, sorry. Actually, no, 11. 11-year arc. You need to realize everybody's going to go see that movie. And pretty much everybody went to go see that movie because it's the highest grossing movie of all time. So, when you realize, hey, you're going to have competition with that movie, you need to at least schedule out more than a week. It should be at least 2 weeks. If not 3. But then again, maybe that would have been enough. Because Long Shot was great. Booksmart was my favorite movie of last year, but it got thrown out by movies like Aladdin, like a Godzilla King of the Monsters, like Pikachu, and again, Rocketman was a great movie. Rocketman was held up fairly well amongst all these big IPs. Godzilla, I thought had a shitty story, but it looked great, but financially it didn't do well. And what I mean is, what I'm getting at is a lot of these smaller movies that are done fairly fast and have budgets of less than $50 million, if not average 20. Let's say average of $20 million, if you're lucky. And your movie barely makes any money because everybody else goes to go see the Disney shit and then the IP shit. Because again, like Olivia Wilde talked about this, and it's sorry, but it's true. I did again. She was saying about how Again, this is my first movie. We shot it in like 26 days. I think she said 26 days. And again, she's saying how movies directed by women need to perform because again, she's not wrong by her when she said this. Movies directed by women need to do well because if they don't, you probably won't get a chance again. Sorry, but it's true. I'm not trying to be an asshole, but it's fairly true. Like, and again, I don't know why she didn't direct another movie since, but Patty Jenkins, I think, didn't direct another movie for after Monster until Wonder Woman. I think because she was directing a lot of television, maybe that's why. But generally, when movies are directed by women, because again, not everybody is a Nancy Meyers or a Penny Marshall, where you're just having hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. Some of them are very small, and if you get lucky, they do okay. And if they do well, you get to do other shit. And of course, and then any filmmaker that makes a movie and it's critically so well received that it's to the point where they can pretty much do whatever they want. And they play the studio system and they play ball and their movies make money. They can do whatever they want. I mean, take the Twilight people for example. They're not directors, but they're actors. They directed. They were in this multi-billion-dollar franchise, and now they can do independent movies left and right. That's pretty much what they've all been doing, except for Taylor Lautner. Taylor Lautner hasn't been in anything since the Coogler show. But what I'm getting at is, like I said, big movies throw out the small movies. And because of that, they don't get seen by many people, and then because of that, these filmmakers probably won't get another chance because their movie didn't make money. It could have been critically well received, but guess what? People don't care about critically well received movies. They care about money. Hollywood is all about money, 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 money. It's just plain facts. And when I make my first movie, I always said, hey, my directorial debut will be a movie called A Group Affair, and I won't get into the plot because I just don't want people to steal my shit. Like if somebody has that, like I said, like the bullshit plot idea where it's a bunch of college freshmen, they go to a party and one hooks up with another one's sister, go ahead, take that. It's fine. I'm sure they've already made that. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. You can take that. But the plot I have, it's so crazy and so like just insane that I can't talk about it because I don't want anybody to steal it. But anyway, I said, I want to make that my directorial debut. But I figure, hey, I have another one I want to do. And I won't say what it is, but let's say if I make that movie, and again, it'll be a movie that's very small, probably have a budget of less than $5 million. If it does well, that could lead to more things. But at the same time, I want to make smart decisions by going from, let's say, hypothetically, a $5 million budget, maybe go into a $20 million budget, then maybe go into a 40, then a 60, maybe then into it 100, maybe a little bit bigger. Because generally, when a filmmaker makes a tiny movie and then they go into the big stratosphere, it doesn't always work out. The biggest example, Josh Trank. Now, the filmmaker who has probably done it the smartest was Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler's first feature, Fruitvale Station, was done, I believe, on a budget of, let me look this up, because I want to get this right, because I'm one of those people that always wants to make sure that I'm right, and I'm not saying bullshit. Okay, his first movie, Fruitvale Station, was a big hit out of Sundance. Made on a budget of $900,000, and I believe was shot in, let's see how many, 20 days. 20 days in July 2012. 20 days, $900,000 budget. Makes like $17 million. His next one, Creed. The one that got Stallone his first acting Oscar nomination since the first Rocky, I believe. That was done on a budget of 35 to 40 million, and it made 173.6. And again, I'm sorry, Mark Rylance, but you know what? Stallone should have got it. I'm not saying it just because, again, Stallone, and I mean this truly, and again, I'm not trying to be a dick. Stallone will probably never go to the Oscars again. He probably will not get nominated for any other acting performance ever again. I'm not trying to be an asshole, but again, sorry, but I don't think he will. And again, Mark Rylance has had great work after great work after great work after great work. I'm not saying Stallone hasn't. Stallone has consistently worked, but again, like he doesn't get the much critical acclaim that he did for Creed or even the sequel as he did with, let's say, Expendables. Now again, he makes what he wants to make and he makes money off it. But again, I love it when he makes a Copland where instead of getting shredded, he gets fat, and then that's like an award level performance. I still think that's probably his most underrated movie that he's ever done as a dramatic actor. And the reason why specifically is because, again, there's one scene where he's talking with the girl, and she says the line, "Freddie, how come you never got married?" And again, he doesn't make it overly dramatical. It's all in his eyes, where he says, "All the best girls were taken." So anyway, back to Ryan Coogler. After Creed, he then got hired to do Black Panther. He was very young. If I'm not mistaken, when did he? Because he's May of '86. When did he get the job? He got it at 29 years old. That's right. He got the job at 29 years old. And that movie's budget was $200 million. And according to Bob Iger, that movie was a gamble. And it made $1.347 billion. And now he's coming back for the sequel. And he's also co-writing and producing Space Jam 2. And another person who did the smart thing was Stephen Cable Jr., director of Creed 2. He and Ryan went to film school together. And he's 32 years old. He's 32. Ryan is 34. He started making shorts. And his first feature was The Land. It's a solid little movie that the budget was $1 million. Tiny little movie released by IFC Films, and it's a really well done movie. Very simple story. It's about kids in Cleveland, and they want to get out of poverty and become pro skateboarders. But then this is the plot: something that happens kind of pulls them into a whole different thing. Tiny little movie, and after that he directs some television, but he gets the job to direct Creed 2. This is a big deal because it became known Ryan Coogler wasn't coming back. He wasn't coming back because of Black Panther, and Stephen Cable Jr. gets the job because the producers saw The Land, and Coogler said, "Hey, yeah, listen. Me and Steven went to film school. I don't know the exact words, but basically like, hey, Steven's talented. Me and him went to film school together. He's the right person for this job." And he does it. He kills it because the movie did very well. And it's one of the better sequels I've seen. And the budget was $50, and the movie's overall success was $214.1 million. Wow, I am at almost 88 minutes. This is the longest podcast I've done. Now, obviously, I'm not, Joe Rogan to the level where I'm doing a fucking... What's the longest one he's ever did? Like 5 hours? Longest Joe Rogan Experience podcast. Longest is 4 hours with, according to him, let's go on YouTube. I don't know if this is right. Okay, there's a handful of these. There was one that's 5 hours long. It's a fight companion on October 8, 2016. It's, so it's Shop, Hands, and Bravo watch fights on October 8, 2016. But just straight up interview, that's Sam Harris at 4:28:02. They have Alex Jones at 4:40. Kevin Smith, 4 hours. It's Ari Shaffir, Tom Segura, Burt Kreischer, 4 hours. So again, my point is he's had podcasts that are very, 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 very long. I probably will never do these long episodes like this again. This is just a topic I'm very passionate about. Okay? So as I wrap this up, I want you guys to comment. How do you feel about the fact that in movies today, I know I went off the rails, but let's just combine the topics of comedy, movie theater expectations, comedies, and smaller films. Let's make that the topic. I want you guys to know. Do you have an audience? Do you like watching big movies over small movies? Do you prefer smalls over big? Actually, proper term is, do you prefer indies over, big movies? Or do you prefer big movies over indies? I mean, the movie that made me want to become a director was Clerks, and that was shot for $28,000. And I don't know if I'll make. And again, I don't know when I'm going to direct my first movie. I wanted to do it last year, but obviously, I couldn't get the funding. And I didn't realize, hey, you got to get permits. God, that was fucking stupid of me. But yeah, and again, I'm a lot smarter. I'm learning how to write screenplays now. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up now. So listen, this is a 90-minute episode. This is fucking insane. 90 minutes. I hope you guys will enjoy this. Have a good rest of your day and or night whenever the fuck you're listening to this. Whether you're listening to it on the car ride home, whether you're listening to it when you're on the treadmill or at the gym, whatever you're doing. Hope you enjoyed listening to this. Give this video a thumbs up. Click that subscribe button. That way you'll be notified whenever I post new episodes and or more content. All right, guys. Thank you very much. This has been episode 7 of the podcast Dealing With Yourself. I am your host, Danny Till. DANNYT, silent HILL. All right. Goodbye.